Hey everyone, Tom Darling here. We spend these times talking about entrepreneurial perspectives on different things, and today I want to talk about a little subject called wealth and wealth building. In the economy that we're living in now, in the world we're living in now, wealth has kind of got bad connotations. More money means more corruption. More money means, better ways to infringe on other people. Making more money means you have to hurt somebody. Climbing the ladder means you got to step on people's hands on the way up. I mean, those are some of the perceptions that we have today in relationship to this concept of wealth. But I want to challenge that a little bit because I think we got it all wrong. I've never met a single person in my life that when I asked the question of, what do you think of wealth? What do you think of the concept of being wealthy? Most of them will say, if I ask them if they wish they were wealthy, they'll say yes. Even though there may be this perception that wealth has got this black, evil cloud that goes around on it, I've never met a person in the world, anywhere that I've been, that's ever said that they did not want to be able to have the financial means to be able to live differently or live better. So, this little discussion is not about trying to convince you why making money or getting rich is great. That's not what this is about. This is about simply making sure that we have a really clear definition of what it means to understand what wealth is. Wealth is not something you save your way to. That's a myth, right? Is that in order to be wealthy, we've got to save everything we have, and we got to scrimp and save and scrimp and collect coupons, and all that's great. But when we do it at the sacrifice of 30 years of our lifestyle, when we sacrifice to the point that we're miserable, so that when you die at 75 or 80 and your kids fight over all this money and all these investments that you've accumulated, that's a bad thing. A lot of people get stuck in their mind that the only way that they can put themselves in a position to experience any kind of financial independence or freedom is that they have to literally submit themselves to the servitude of building this big cash stockpile. And that's the furthest from the truth. Another myth is spending your way to wealth. And this is a perception that we deal a lot with, especially in the millennial generation and Generation X now, is that, in order for me to experience what wealth is, then I've got to do what everybody else is doing or what the society tells me that wealth is about, which is I need to buy stuff. I need to buy a new car every couple of years. I need to live in a house, the size of what my parents' house was. I need to, go out and get the clothes, the shoes, the handbag, the makeup, the accessories, the tools, whatever it is that I need. And if I can't afford it, that's okay, because that's what my credit's for. So if I imitate wealth, then I can get to experience this lifestyle that everybody's talking about. That's the second myth. And it's far from the truth about what wealth means. Here's another myth, and it's spending your way to wealth. I know that doesn't make sense, right? So these are people that actually have good jobs that pay $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year. And a lot of what happens with the people that spend their way to wealth is they believe that now that they have this income, they can support this lifestyle that they can build by buying those things. So instead of just charging it like the folks that are imitating wealth, they spend every penny that they bring in on all that stuff so they can have it and have it now and can compete mentally with other people around them to experience this financial freedom. Let me just tell you something though. Spending your way to wealth, imitating your way to wealth, and just plainly saving yourself to death on your way to wealth is not financial freedom at all. It's financial servitude. It's like money slavery. Wealth is not about how much you make. It's not. It's not about also how much you buy. Because if you buy everything with borrowed money, it doesn't belong to you. Wealth is about how much you have. And it's not just financially, but it's also mentally, psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. How much you have. It's real easy to do a little calculation. If you're 19 years old and you save $2,000 a year at 10% over 40 years, that turns into somewhere around, $1.5 million at 10% interest. And, we look at that and think, oh my gosh, that's crazy, but that's 40 years. Yeah, it's 40 years. But that's only 10% of your income, just put away. And 40 years sounds like a long time, but let me tell you, when you're 19 years old, 40 years makes you 59 years old. And I haven't met anybody who's 59 that doesn't want to retire or doesn't want to do something else. I had a student the other day tell me, it's like, well, Tom, that's great. All those numbers are great. But, God, I don't have 30 years or 40 years to, invest and put money away. But then I asked him, I said, well, do you have a mortgage? He said, of course I do. I said, well, how long did you finance that mortgage? 30 years. That's what everybody does. And 30 years at, 3, 4, 5%, you're going to end up paying twice what that house cost you up front, even with the tax deduction. We sign a 30-year mortgage and don't even blink an eye, but we're not willing to put 10% of our income away in an investment for 30 years. And then other people will say, well, Tom, you really can't get 10, 12%. Well, no, not if you're saving for 4 or 5 years or checking it every day. But over 20 or 30 years, sure. So let's not even say you want to invest. I don't, it's too hard for me. Well, here's really what I want you to think about. What if you chose to spend your money in a way that what you spent your money on was on things that can provide you a return on your investment? A lot of us throw a lot of money away every month on eating out. And let me tell you what your return on investment is when you eat out. It's something you flush down the toilet 7 hours later. That's a fact. I know it's gross, but it's a fact. How many of you buy a car that may look cool, but you couldn't haul a 2x4 in it if you wanted to? How many of you buy trinkets and toys and things that, maybe serve a purpose for a little while, but end up in a shed somewhere? What if we decided to spend our money on the things that were going to truly provide a return on investment? The car you buy the type of car that's going to make you money or save you money and not cost you, an unreasonable amount of interest. Or you decide to buy a house that's something that that you can sell one day for more than you paid for it. Or when you go out to eat, instead of just going out to eat all the time and going to places that are going to make you fat, maybe we go out to eat when we want to take family members out, when we want to have really high quality time. Because see, a return on investment also includes those emotional and psychological and spiritual things we deal with in life. Wealth is more about using your time, your money, and all of your efforts in a synergistic way. Time, money, and effort, all used to produce a return on that investment. There's nothing wrong with being wealthy. But most of us are trying to go about it the wrong way. If you don't have the money, you probably shouldn't spend the money. And if you have the money, you don't need to spend it all. And you probably should save a little bit, and you probably should put it in a place that's going to return a harvest to you. It's going to bring a profit and not just get burned up under your mattress if, your house burns down. Wealth is a tricky thing. It's not a bad thing. But you got to understand, most wealthy people don't even look like they're wealthy. They didn't get that way because they bought new cars every 2 years. They got that way because they drove a 2 or 3 year old car and didn't borrow the money to buy it. A lot of people in your lives that look really wealthy are probably either imitating it or spending their way to wealth. We have to kind of redefine the way that we look at money, because it's not about trying to be better than somebody else. It's about deciding what your personal goals are for you and your family, and then making really wise, important choices about how you're going to get there and how you're going to accomplish them. You can save a ton of cash and never give a thing away and never do anything nice for anybody and never do anything nice for yourself, but it'll get taken by your relatives one day. And you can buy a bunch of stuff you can't afford and file for bankruptcy and start again, but you'll have a miserable existence. It really is about discipline, using your time, your money, and your effort in a way that produces a return in your life.